This is the biggest story in the world media right now. 1 million Palestinians are returning from southern Gaza to northern Gaza. In the beginning of the war, Israel told Palestinians in northern Gaza to move out of harm's way and go south. Most of them did go south. Now, as a result of the hostage ransom deal that Israel is paying, Palestinians are going back to the north. The Israeli military has left its positions on the Netserim Corridor, which divides Gaza into two parts. Northern Gaza, by the way, is the closest part of the Gaza Strip to Israel and the southern villages which were attacked on October 7th. In fact, it was a major base of operations for Hamas and a launching point for the Hamas terrorists who invaded Israel on October 7th. Northern Gaza is a few minutes walk to Israeli communities that were attacked on October 7th: Sderot, Nativ HaAsara, Nachal Oz, and Kfar Aza. If civilians are returning to northern Gaza, that actually means that Hamas is returning to northern Gaza too. Their most sought after demand in the negotiation was to return Gazans to the northern part of the Strip in order to re-embed themselves amidst the civilian population as they had done before and rearm themselves in preparation for the next October 7th. I saw a celebratory tweet from a so-called Palestinian journalist. It said, "One day we will return not to Gaza, but to the whole land of historic Palestine." Now, this is a popular sentiment in Palestinian society, and there is no way to peacefully rebuild Gaza if its people there are taught and indoctrinated to conquer Israel. Gaza should not be rebuilt while its Hamas government says that the entire Israel should be destroyed. The situation now is truly concerning. The hostage ransom deal that Israel agreed to says that anyone walking by foot from southern Gaza to northern Gaza will not be inspected. So what that means is that the road is open. Vehicles are meant to be checked by foreign contractors who are moving into position at key points in Gaza, but you don't have to be a genius to figure how that will look like. Israel's withdrawal from Netserim Corridor is a major concession. On the one hand, it indicates Israel's serious desire to bring every hostage home. On the other hand, Israel is giving up a vital point of leverage over Hamas, while Hamas continues to hold our hostages. In fact, Hamas is holding still 90 hostages as we speak and has been holding them in atrocious conditions for 479 days. This is an unbearable situation. This week, we are meant to see 6 more hostages come home. This is what we know right now. Arbel Yehud, Agam Berger, and a third unnamed hostage will be released, please God, on Thursday. 3 more hostages will be released, please God, on Saturday. We saw what Hamas did to the 4 Israeli women who were released last Saturday. Thousands of Gazan men, many armed, whistling, shouting, surrounding the Israeli women, completely and utterly inhumane. Of course, not a woman in sight, except our hostages, only dozens of masked Hamas terrorist men. Oh wait, there was one local woman I saw in the crowd. She was throwing confetti on Hamas terrorists. I assume she was a terrorist mother who was bursting with pride over her terrorist son. Meanwhile, I read and I hear many commentators cynically say that the hostages themselves seemed happy and well taken care of, and even smiled and spoke highly of their captors in Arabic. Well, that is for the truly intelligent or intelligent. those who were stupid enough to believe that these brave lionesses were not drugged prior to the inhumane ordeal that they were made to go through. Now let's take some questions from our audience watching live on social media.
Thank you, Ruth. Is it correct that Islamic Jihad in Gaza is also holding hostages? I've seen reports about this. How does it work between Islamic Jihad and Hamas?
So there's a myriad of terrorist groups in the Gaza Strip, also in the West Bank, as in Lebanon, as in every place where there is chaos and instability. In the Gaza Strip, the two main terrorist groups are Hamas, first and foremost, and the Islamic Jihad. By the way, both fed, nurtured, trained, and funded by the Islamic Republic of Iran. Yes, other groups other than Hamas also went in on October 7th and took civilians and others, women, children, captive. And yes, some of them still hold onto them and are negotiating or negotiated their price or ransom for their return with the Hamas. And that is exactly what has happened to our hostage civilian woman, Arbel Yehud. And one of the reasons why the Hamas says that they hadn't returned her on time and actually went contrary to the agreement that they themselves had signed. But we hold the Hamas completely accountable to everything that is going on in the Gaza Strip.
This is a question from Instagram. Can you please provide your interpretation of the events that have taken place in southern Lebanon in the past 24 hours?
Yes, I can. The events that have taken place in southern Lebanon is in fact that the end of the time appropriated for the re-movement of the Lebanese army into the areas in southern Lebanon in the IDF stead was supposed to happen. However, the period of time allocated for this, which was 60 days, this did not happen. Why? For a number of reasons. First of all, the Lebanese army is weak. Second of all, it is fearful of the Hezbollah warriors in southern Lebanon, even though the Hezbollah has been weakened by the IDF. And there are a myriad of other reasons. One way or another, the Lebanese army did not do what it was supposed to do. And therefore, with Hezbollah remaining in certain parts of southern Lebanon, and the fact that it has not de-armed itself, made the IDF remain in some parts of southern Lebanon. And this is exactly what is happening now. Once the IDF and the Israeli government will feel that the army, the southern Lebanese army or the Lebanese army would take its positions instead of Hezbollah, and Hezbollah will de-arm itself, we will come out, because then we will be more certain that our civilians in the north will not be threatened, which is not the case right now.
The following question is from our Instagram stories. What is the situation in Jenin? Everyone is focused on Gaza right now, but there have been major operations in Jenin, both from the Israeli military, and before that, the Palestinian Authority was operating there.
So a quick word about what is happening in the so-called West Bank in Judea and Samaria. So as you all know, in Judea and Samaria, the Palestinian Authority was in fact the so-called Palestinian government for very many years. This is the so-called internationally recognized Palestinian government, internationally recognized by the entire world, including the UN. This particular authority is at odds and has always been with Hamas and the Islamic Jihad. The Islamic Jihad and Hamas are, let's say, Islamic extremist, radical, religiously based organizations fed and nurtured by the Islamic Republic of Iran. And they had weapons smuggled to them, and they had been strengthened over the past few years by the Islamic Republic of Iran by smuggling via Jordan and antagonistically to what Jordan actually wanted. What was the point? To undermine the internationally recognized Palestinian Authority. Why? Because Iran wanted to be on the border directly with Israel. They wanted chaos in the West Bank. They wanted their own proxies in the West Bank and then to attack the entire Israel. Mind you, we're talking about tens of meters away from Israeli villages, very similarly to what is happening in the south. It's close to Netanya, it's close to Kfar Saba, it's close to Hadera, it's close to many places in Israel proper. This is what has been going on. And now that there is a moving out of our IDF soldiers from Gaza, there has been more focus on the West Bank, where terrible instability has been in place for a long time. Tons of arms, weapons. There has been an assault by those Hamas and Islamic Jihad on the Palestinian Authority, but also all of them, both the Palestinian Authority and the Hamas and the Islamic Jihad, are united in their antagonism and their cry against Israel, against the very existence of the state of Israel. And this is something that needs to be taken care of very, very quickly.
We're getting a lot of questions about President Trump's recent comments asking Jordan and Egypt to open their borders to Palestinians from Gaza. What do you think about his comments, and what might Palestinians in Gaza want if they had the opportunity?
So, a very controversial statement from incoming President Donald Trump, but very courageous and out of the box, is to think about maybe offering the Palestinians to go out of the Gaza Strip, which is in fact full of rubble. They are going back to the northern part of the Strip where there are no housing, there is absolutely no infrastructure, no schooling, nothing. So in order to rehabilitate that part, he's talking about rehabilitating those Palestinian Gazans elsewhere. Now, he spoke of Indonesia, of Malaysia, of Egypt, and of Jordan. Mind you, Jordan is a small, unstable country bordering with Israel. This instability is dangerous not only for Jordan, but also for Israel, because it has a very long border with Israel. And if instability takes over and brings down the Hashemite kingdom and the leadership, this will prove to be very dangerous for Israel because it has a 330-kilometer mutual border. Thus, to send more Palestinians in the form of Gazans into Jordan may be questionable. With Egypt, Egypt has made crystal clear from the beginning of the war that if one Gazan is to go over the border into its own territory, it's a casus belli for it. In other words, as much as they say and declare that they love their Palestinian brethren, they are not willing to take in one Gazan because they know that Gazans bring instability, and they know that Hamas will make their way with the population into the Sinai Peninsula, and they know that Hamas is Muslim Brotherhood, and they will seek to destabilize the central regime in Egypt. And therefore they are against it, but not just against it. They are strictly against it. In fact, they are enhancing their military capabilities in a very significant way against Israel in the Sinai Peninsula, moving tanks, building tunnels. It's unbelievable. So the international arena needs to wake up to the fact that Egypt is so eager for those Palestinians to go downwards. In other words, towards the Israeli border, to the northern part of the Gaza Strip as part of the deal with Hamas. Why? Because that moves away the concentration of Palestinians from their own border. But to move them into the Islamic Republic of Iran that is so concerned about the Palestinians, into Qatar that has so much money and is so concerned for the Palestinians, into Indonesia, into Malaysia is a wonderful idea to throw out there. And there are many Palestinians who are sick and tired of the war, not only from Israel, but from the Hamas leadership that is strict. It is a foul and very, very dangerous leadership. They are sick and tired of it, and they will gladly go. This is not meant to be a power-oriented move, but rather a suggestion to rehabilitate Gazans within the Gaza Strip. And is it a positive thing? It is. It's something that needs to be considered. Why? Because the situation is so bad, so complex, so difficult that we have to think out of the box on how to make this work.
This is our final question today. How do you feel as an Israeli dealing with the current situation about how this hostage ransom arrangement is going to play out? We're only in phase one. What are you expecting and what are you hoping in the weeks ahead?
Well, as an Israeli and as a mother and as somebody who loves the people of Israel and the Jewish peoplehood, and I'm proud to be an Israeli, I feel very strongly, like most of my countrymen, about the returning of the hostages. This is our moral duty and responsibility of the Israeli government. However, one of the only and main leverages that the IDF had after a very difficult and complex war for the past 15 months, which we did not want, we did not seek, we were actually pushed into by atrocious, heinous deeds by inhumane Hamas terrorists on October 7th. What I believe is that this leverage was the Netserim Corridor. Why? Because it prevented Gazans from going towards the northern part of the Gaza Strip, closer, in fact, very much closer to the southern villages in Israel proper, which were in fact attacked on October 7th. This is the most important thing that the Hamas wanted. Now they got it very early in the hostage deal. Now that they got it, they can not only embed themselves in the civilian population and make it very difficult for the IDF to do anything about them perhaps not fulfilling the rest of the hostage deal, while they still have 90 hostages in their hands. And this is something that worries me very, very much. The international arena needs to understand. We had made a deal with the devil incarnate in the form of Hamas terrorists supported by Qatar, by Turkey's Erdogan, and by the Islamic Republic of Iran, all enemies not only of Israel and the Jewish people, but of the West, of the US, of the UK, and of Western values in general. We need to keep that in mind. If they're happy with this deal, that means something is wrong. And I do hope that the Hamas will stand up to their expectations and responsibilities within the agreement. Do I believe them? Do I count on them? No. But the international arena must make it clear. And I believe in the current presidency and the current administration in the United States and its strength and its determination to not allow Hamas to get away with not bringing back the rest of our hostages home.
Thanks for watching. Drop a comment below. Don't forget to like, share, and hit subscribe to stay updated with our latest content. Until next time, stay informed and inspired. This is Dejobnik signing off.